Sure.
And we're live.
Yes, we are. Welcome to Productivity and Procrastination. I'm James. That's Joe. And
Hey.
this is the show where we go from being, you know, people that don't do much to
Mm-hmm.
people that do much.
Exactly.
This is season 2, episode 22.
The 222. Pretty crazy.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. We appreciate you. Well, James, we ended up skipping a week. So we've got 2 weeks of stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get
Why
mine
did
out
we
of the
skip a
way.
week?
Why did we skip it? Because my hand, it was still giving me
Oh, yeah.
fits. Speaking of which, today was like the first day in like almost 4 weeks that my hand has been in a place where I felt comfortable to draw. And like it hasn't been like painful, and like there's still like a mild, but it's mostly gone, which I'm very excited about. I was mortified that it was going to be a permanent thing. And so I started working on a painting I'm going to be painting. It's a goat. So I'm sketching out a goat, and then I'm going to paint that goat. I'm going to try to give the goat a helmet,
A helmet.
like a metal
Right.
helmet.
Well,
And I want his little
Yeah, it's
floppy
been-
ears being pushed down by the helmet, because that'll be funny.
great. Well, while I'm eating cheese, why don't you start us off? Tell us how your weeks go.
Okay. Yeah, so most of my weeks were just like me attempting to like give my hand time to rest while still, performing my job. I did spend 2 weeks in manager training, which is a whole thing, and that's why we're having to record these at weird times, except for tonight. The reason why we're recording it tonight is because I swapped my Saturday for tomorrow because I wanted to work the weekend, not the weekend, the holiday, because I get time and a half and an extra 8 hours. And so I was like, I need that money. And I get Saturday off, which is great. But should be able to go back to Mondays as a record day. But yeah, I have been drawing every day. It hasn't been a whole lot, but I have made sure to actually put pen to paper every single day, just because to me that's really important. So I still haven't broken that streak, which I'm excited about. I got very excited to start working on the goat today, so I did. And yeah. How about you, James? How was your 2 weeks?
My 2 weeks were good.
Nice. Do you want to tell us about them?
Sure. My first week did a little journaling. I journaled 1,984 words,
Nice.
and then I wrote 3,459 words in my novel.
That's
I did pretty
awesome,
good.
dude.
Felt good about it.
That's bad A.
I got some time on my day off and just kind of wrote. Hung out with my kid too at the same time and kind of did a little writing, a little bit with her,
Mm-hmm.
writing. Felt good. And so then once you said that we weren't gonna do the thing, I was like, wow, okay. I think I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do something I wouldn't have normally done. So I decided to kind of pivot a little bit and focus on observing um, a few things. One, I created a folder where I chart all my days, and I particularly wanted to find out when I would write and when I would be doing all these other things. When I sleep, I charted everything. I have my day broken down into 96 15-minute periods, and basically looking for patterns, things that I can hone to become more perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I've discovered that I think I do have sleep apnea, so I need to get that solved.
Yeah.
I sleep more than I think I need to. I think it's because I don't get good sleep, and
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to going to the doctor and then going and getting sleep tests. Because I mean, from what I've charted, it's like I'll sleep like what a normal person would have a good night's sleep, like full 8 hours plus, and then I'll like sleep again at sometime during the day for like another 2 to 3 hours, it seems, and I'm just
Yeah.
always tired, and it doesn't matter what day it is. It's like it's just and I wouldn't have noticed it if I didn't start charting it. So I just
Interesting.
thought you know, you just think you're sleeping okay, and you think you're just, you know. But once I started charting it, it was like, oh, so obvious. It's like, wow, there's something wrong here. so
Mm-hmm.
so I'll have to find out when my appointment is, but looking forward to getting that changed. And just there's specific days where I know now that I don't have like any time, so I need to like make sure I keep that in mind, and so I can get production done on different days. So then I also incorporated. I just started listening to various things on writing. I figured, well, okay, if I'm going to be diving in, I want to um, find out as much information I can from successful authors, and so I've been listening to information on them, seeing what I agree with, seeing what I you
Mm-hmm.
know, and writing that down, and kind of just doing research on that, and then I made I decided, well, each week now I'm gonna have like a little checklist kind of thing to just kind of keep me in my mindset, and where I can put down my numbers, and just kind of like a little bit of a end of the week kind of thing before we meet, so I have all my calculations and any kind of changes I want to make, and things like that. Um, so I feel pretty good. I've changed this document a few times, and I've messed with the general. I call it my 96 sheet. A little bit here and there. Now I think it's pretty good, and I like it. So I just basically now start out my day. As soon as I get up, I print off my my day, and go from there. But I like keeping track of it. I have a spot for how many words in my novel did I do today, and how many words in my journal, and so then at the end of the week I can just tabulate it all up and have my review day. Um, and so it I didn't really do a lot of writing this week just because I was kind of in that mode of research, and since we didn't meet, I didn't feel like I needed to, you know, keep anything going for now. Just kind of like I want to streamline myself as much as I can and see where I lack, so that I can do better,
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really pushing yourself. I sounds like you're really, really evaluating yourself and trying to find ways to improve, and that's awesome. I think I think self improvement is as important, if not more important, than like being productive. Like, because you're gonna grow and be able to be a better version of yourself, and more than likely more productive if you're, a better version of yourself. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it takes a little time, um, but I think I'm just going to get better and better at it, faster and faster at all these things, and I'm very curious to see how this next my week starts Monday, and so just kind of pushing myself to see what I can do this next week. I still have a little bit of research to do on some of those other authors. Um, Curious on some things I do agree with, some things I've found in my own years of doing it, and some things I don't necessarily agree with. I think that some of the things they're looking at their individual styles and
Right.
maybe their genres, and kind of putting a little bit of a broad brush on there. But I think it's wise for me to take a look what they have to say, and really just think to see if that fits me. And I really want to, now that I'm actually writing, and I think I can write chunks. I want to make sure I'm not like missing a piece that's going to like. I mean, you get the right piece of information somewhere, and it maybe can save you a lot of heartache or
Yeah. A lot of trouble.
something.
Yeah.
There's a piece of information that I don't have that I need to have, and that's kind of like I'm trying to find that information, making sure I'm not lacking that, and then moving forward, and then I'm gonna try to increase productivity as much as I can. I did find some days to, hang out with my family and do things,
Yeah.
and it was. I know that there is a. It's easy to say yes to that, and
I mean,
so
it's family, so it's like it's hard because, like, yeah, I mean, I have a budget of $75 a week, but I found out my brother's moving to North Dakota, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy you dinner. So I spent like way too much on dinner, but it's like it's a one time he's going away. I'm not gonna like nitpick about how much we're spending on dinner for like probably won't see him for maybe a year or two. So it's like I'm not gonna. It's family.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. So something that you mentioned that brought something up from me is you mentioned that you're looking at other authors and stuff, and there was a while back where I watched on YouTube, I believe Brandon Sanderson has this whole like YouTube series, and you probably have heard of it, where he goes through and like how he makes these worlds and like how he makes everything and like his thought process on everything. And to me, it was really cool to listen to.
Is this an author or is this an artist?
Author. And it made me want to start writing.
Well, maybe
And
I'll have
so-
to take a look at whoever
Yeah.
that is.
I'll find you the
just
link.
write down the name. Oh yeah, and you just send me the link.
I'll send you a link to this stuff.
Cool.
He writes a lot of books. He's got so many. He's like the fantasy writer to that other guy that writes horror all the time.
Stephen King.
Yeah, that's the one. S King. Soga King. Yeah, he's basically the fantasy version of him.
Well, yeah, yeah. I want to absorb what I can, and then just be my own style. But you know, I don't want to be missing something obvious or stupid that I'm missing. So, gather information phase is a little bit of what I'm going through, but then I want to dive right back in and get some production again. So it'll probably be kind of like a mixed bag next week. We'll see how it goes, how much of each I do, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way things are going right now.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I'm right there with you. I'm happy that my hand is finally in a place where it can, it's healing. It's almost healed. Like, it doesn't hurt at all right now, which I love that, but I've also had that and then wake up the next morning and it still hurts a little bit. So I'm like, okay, well. So we'll see what happens in the morning, but every morning it seems to be less and less. So I'm assuming it's getting better. Now, specifically about this goat, so let me get the backstory about this goat. I've been playing a game called Wargroove, and then the sequel Wargroove 2 with a friend of mine, and we would send goats back and forth, like, because we would send like a little goat that's just a clickable thing. We would set our emote in Messenger as the goat, and whenever we sent the goat, it means it's take your turn on Wargroove because it's asynchronous. And so at some point he thought it'd be funny to send me a cutout version of a GIF of a goat, and then I sent him something back, and then he sent me a laminated goat. And so now I want to one up him by sending him a painting of a goat. Oh, I've been buying that and I've been drinking that V8 spicy. So good. So yeah, my goal is to make a nice basically a ridiculous goat picture, right? Now here's the issue. Is this too small, or do I need to go get like the 4-foot by 3-foot canvas and do it on that?
Are you asking me?
I'm a little bit like, is this a ha he funny joke, or should I go full ridiculousness?
Yes.
Because there's this quote, right? There's this quote is, are you doing things to not disappoint people, or are you doing things to be fantastic? And I feel like this wouldn't disappoint anybody, but it's not fantastic. A giant 3x4 goat, that's fantastic.
And that's why I said yes.
Exactly. So I do need to go buy probably 2 different 3x4s just because I'm going to mess it up and probably practice on this one first. But yes, I think there is something there. And I think part of that, like, being fantastic thing is part of exploration and being willing to do the weird. I don't know.
Go big or go home.
Exactly.
Is what I think of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. I think you're reaching a little bit for the exploration thing. I think it's more like my mentality. Go in, dive in, be fantastic. Force yourself. So yeah. Either way, we both are in agreement.
Yes, yes. Yes, we are. Yeah. Other than that, I didn't have anything too exciting happen. Like I said, I've been drawing every day, so I'm really happy that that streak hasn't been broken. But it's not been like drawing a whole bunch because I didn't want to like stress my hand out too much. But been drawing. I made it through manager training. I'm going back to work tomorrow to be a normal boy. And but I'll be a normal boy that can draw again, which would be nice.
That's good. So during your little hiatus, um, any thoughts, observations, any just about your craft or how you've been doing things or anything?
Like every time I get this, like any like what I consider a debilitating pain in like my hand, or in like your arm or your shoulder, where you can't do any like the stuff that you normally would do. Like there's this thought that what if this is permanent? What if this is unchangeable? What if this is forever? And it's like, okay, well then, I mean, how possible is what I want to accomplish if this is a permanent thing? And so it's like, it's scary in that way, and it's like how I would have to figure out some way of pivoting how I created. Like,
How many times has this happened?
this specific thing, this time. But I at one point I had an issue with my shoulder where I figured out why I was having an issue. I was sleeping on my shoulder and stretching it out. And then, just there's always that fear of like, oh, this just might be my life now.
Mm.
And especially how long this lasted, I was like, ugh.
Well, how much real rest did you get? Like, I mean, it's not like you didn't do anything with your hand, was it?
Well, no, not all the time. Like, I mean, I had to work, and then, I had to, and then I played games, but I wouldn't play games if my hand was hurting. Like, if it hurt the hand, I wouldn't do it. I played a lot of time just like without using my thumb, just the fingers. But and that was fine. But I don't know. It was just scary. Still is a little bit. I want it to like fully heal and not have to worry about it anymore. But the fact that I see progress, constant progress towards like it not hurting at all, is good for me.
Well, you probably overdid it a little bit. I mean, in this podcast, we ask the tough questions. And one would have to ask, Joe, if you spend over 60 hours in the last 2 weeks playing video games, did you maybe not give it as much rest as you probably should have?
I mean, if it was 60 hours, yeah. But
It was 65.
really?
Yeah. I checked
Damn.
before I came on here. I wanted to see how your hand situation
65
was.
hours, huh?
Yeah. So
Is that 2 weeks or last week?
2 weeks, but
Okay.
for 2 weeks, you know, you said your
Damn.
hand was 90% the last time. So, you know, you have to ask the tough questions. And
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe,
I thought I was
you weren't
resting it more
resting
than
at
I
the
was.
best you probably could have. Let's be a little honest.
Yeah, I guess not. My goodness. Yeah,
You know,
dang.
but I mean, if it's getting better, hopefully, but you know, I don't know if it's possible to tone down a little bit until it's 100%.
Yeah.
Because what's scarier, taking a little bit of time away from gaming or having something that lasts,
Mm-hmm.
on your hand? So there's that.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't play some games too. Me and my daughter played Dungeon Defenders on the Xbox 360 that we dug
Oh,
out of
wow.
like the corner of some dust-filled cabinet. And me and her just played that for a little
Nice.
little
That was a
while.
good game.
Yeah, we were having fun with it. And
I still think Dungeon Defenders 2 was tragically underrated.
maybe it was.
It's the online one
Huh.
with like all the different characters. You could like take traps from different classes and use those traps with your main class. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's a good game. And
Yeah.
so that was what we did one of the days this last week. Me and her just spent a time playing that and hung out. But there's that balance. It's like how much, I know what I want to do, and do have all the people pulling me to do all these things and but I think it was good just observing my week, observing how I kind of normally roll, and how much time I do things, and then this coming week, seeing how I can use that information and kind of like understand when I have to get things done, because sometimes it's hard to really understand. Oh, it's like, oh, if I don't feel like that, I'll just wait till tomorrow. But then you realize, oh, tomorrow's like not a good day at all, normally. So I'm going to use that information. I think just like our weekly thing, information is very valuable. Understanding yourself. So
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, hopefully by next week I'll have a lot more progress on just stuff I'm doing. I'll just show more. I'm excited.
well, I hope that you at least have some large canvases purchased or something.
Yeah.
You know.
I did get that that garbage like poster in.
Oh yeah. How is it?
It looked fine to me. I didn't have any issues with it.
Did it look good?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think so.
wrapped like? Did the black go around
Yeah,
sides?
yeah, it did. It looks good.
Nice. Right.
Yeah, when next time you're over here, I'll throw it at you and you can take it home. And it's huge.
Nice. Good.
It's like the size I want the goat to be. I want them to get the goat and have no idea what the fuck they're gonna do with it. I want it to look good though. Like, I want them to kind of want to hang it.
Well, That does sound funny. Yeah, that is a good goal.
See, that's the type of shit that like sparks joy for me. Is just doing weird stuff, and like not like it's like these skills that I'm using to do the weird stuff do transferred over to like, you know, creation of paintings. So it's like I'm not just wasting time. It's like something I'm excited about, makes somebody laugh, and I'm learning something at the same time.
Yes, yes. Yeah, as long as it's well, it can happen in a relatively smooth time frame, not something that's like 4 months away. I can definitely say that that would be great. So, did you hear anything or watch anything or whatnot that might inspired you in some way, or do we need to talk about for productivity and all that? I don't know. I guess when it comes to me, I feel like I'm ready to enter in some kind of phase where I'm consistently producing, and even though I know you have reservations against trying to kind of like find like some kind of perfect version, I do want to kind of explain that a little bit, because I think maybe you have a little bit of a wrong idea on it.
Yeah, it's very
I
possible.
feel like over time, you see, like even from years ago, it's like you want to be, a writer, or you want to be an artist, but you have there are problems in your life. There are roadblocks. There are just timing issues. There's normal life issues. All these things play a part in you going, oh, I would love to do this. And I just think that I'm kind of like my trajectory is to the point where enough time has passed and enough instances have happened that I feel like now I'm to the point where I can now go kind of like to critical mass a little bit. Okay, some of those other things that have plagued me over time are finally kind of smoothed out, and they're out of the picture to a degree. And so, I feel like I'm more of like, the event horizon to a black hole, where I could be around this time where it's like I'm going to get sucked into the production, and there's no stopping it. There is no stopping it, and the whole defining thing that I said, I don't think that would have been possible, like 6 months ago. I wouldn't have been ready. All those things weren't smoothed out. My life wasn't in the situation that is in right now. I haven't gone through all the things that we had talked about and all that stuff. And so I just think it was like, I finally got to the spot, the one little point on my little timeline where it was possible to go, okay, time to vamp up, time to really, put the pedal to the metal, and see what I can do, to make some faster, progress. And a lot of that has to do too that I'm not the youngest guy in the world anymore, So there's all these factors in to all that. It's like, okay, well, I'm ready to see what I can become. And it's not a perfect, yes, of course, I'm still me. There are still all the variables of me. But when I say I want to become the perfect writer, it's basically just, how can I be the most productive writer that I possibly could be? Not the very top perfection of it, but just like, you know, what is the, how hard can I push myself? You know, what could that be and still feel like I have the life that is worth living? You know, I have a life that still takes into account that I have a family and all those things. But puts a little more emphasis on the writer aspect. So I don't know if that clarified anything or not. Now that I'm kind of the end of that. So I guess I'll just wait for you to respond.
I think we're going for the same thing, just in round like different ways, which is not uncommon for us. I feel like we're striving, and I think a lot of our perspectives are just askew, but we're looking at the same things. And maybe it's just a more of a vernacular thing than it is a necessary, or maybe it's just our understanding of it. I do think we're a lot of on the same track as far as this, like, getting things done and really progressing. And I think it's going to take time for both of our methods, no matter how similar or different, to really iron out into a repeatable process, because that's what really matters. Is, sure, maybe we can get one project done, but how do we keep making projects? How do we keep doing that stuff? We got to iron out the details.
I do want to make a point there with that. You did mention in the past how it's like you think that kind of having a vision of you know, the writer, basically, that it might get you so far, but and I kind of want to pinpoint a little bit of a flaw in my mind with that logic, and that is that it seems like you're excluding the reality that when somebody goes into becoming a change, there is the iterations in between that can matter. It seems like you're like, okay, well, yeah, you're gonna like do all this stuff, but at this point here, you could be a year later, you're doomed, and then what? So what? All those iterations and all the change that you had made in between there just means nothing, and all of a sudden you're like, gonna what? Leapfrog back to nothing? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, I do see your point, and I think you do make a good one. Because if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying, if I was to force myself to become the artist, like the perfect artist, and I get something out, then it's hard to like go back on that. It's not like you're going to be able to revert back to not having something out and not understanding that process and not knowing like what it actually takes to get something released. Is that kind of like what you're getting at?
Yes, and the extra thing of you will have changed. Like you're not going to be the same person. If you force yourself to like make production like a very high level, if you can maintain that for a period of time, it will become more normal for you to become more productive in that sense. And so it's hard to, even if you regressed in some way, it's very difficult for me to see you going, downshifting 10 different, like level, want to call it that, level ups or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's as I'm moving forward in the production, I'm changing myself. Like there is a version or a part of me who just by declaring it and by actually doing the steps, I am actually becoming slightly closer to what I'm actually talking about. And that part of it, when you keep doing it and keep doing it like I'm starting to do, I'm starting to have weeks behind my belt. It's difficult for me to like I'm just am that, you know, it's like it's I'm more closer to that than I was, you know, before I started. And so now even if I regressed, or let's say I couldn't become perfect or whatever, there's still that part of me that is pushing himself more. And it's with enough time under my belt, it's hard to get rid of it. You know, it's because it just becomes what you do. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that even if I never get to perfection, this line out there, the changes that I'm making each day and each week are starting to actually change me, and some of that is sticking.
Yeah. So, I think my the big motto, I think, of my approach that I think is that differs from yours is it's more of a gradual change and more of a okay, so let me back up. So with your process, you're saying that as you push yourself to become this perfect version, like, or towards the perfect version, not necessarily
right, yeah,
become.
that's fine.
You're going to be picking up these habits, these skills, these things along the way. That's you're inevitably going to be changing as a person, anyways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I completely agree. I think that's spot on. I can't refute that because, like, as you grow and become and learn, you're gonna change. Like, it would take actively avoiding anything positive in order to not change in those situations. So I think it's inevitable. Now, the concern comes with burnout and feeling like and trying to avoid writing because it gives you or whatever your creative field is, it gives you a sense of like dread or inadequacy or not good enough. And like, especially in situations where like you have these good weeks where you're like, you know, I'm kicking butt, I'm doing great. And then later on, you're not only remembering these good weeks, but you're also fantasizing that maybe these weeks, like you remember the best parts about these weeks, like, oh, how productive I was. And you don't remember because nobody remembers like the bad stuff. It's all, oh, look how productive I was. And and so that could also lead to a like, I'm never going to be able to do that again, that type of stuff too. So it's the only concern in that situation would be burnout, because I think that'd be the only way that you would change in such a way as you're going towards perfection, but end up reverting back. The only way I could see would be through burnout.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would have to say I would agree. So, you know, I realize that I'm pushing myself hard. And that will be a little bit of the now, before we had talked about, you know, tricking the mind, and I I use the words trick, but in reality, it's. I understand how, you know, ultimately, I like to, think that we are in control here.
Mhm.
And I think that, if you really want something, that you do have to realize that there is going to be times of tension, and you need to have a little bit of time of release, here and there. Um, the mental exercise I will use instead of trick, the fortitude that I would have to not have the problem that we're talking about, is to build in some how concrete, sometimes they'll have the little strips in there just, for the easing of the, heating and the contractions and all that. I need to not take myself so seriously. I need to have this this understanding that I'm not, that I'm going to need those points where there's going to be some contraction here and there's going to be some pullback here. My mind is going to want to break here and there. And be in such control where I understand when that happens and I allow it to happen, but only to a certain degree.
Mhm.
And
Because it's a slippery slope.
Yes, it can be. And so to not take myself too seriously as I take myself super seriously.
Yeah.
That is.
And so I kind of want to touch on the slippery slope aspect and what we mean by that, because it's like mutually we understand what we mean, but it's something that I think deserves an explanation. So what I believe, and this is just my interpretation, James is talking about is like once you take that break, once you take that that break and you stop working on something, even for like if you put it out of your mind for a certain amount of time, like you're not working on it, it's hard to come back to it. There's like a draw to not do that. And you've probably noticed it if you've done projects in the past, where there's this like, if you don't work on it for so long, it's hard to want to go back to it. And that's kind of what we're talking about, is that it's a slippery slope, and like he wants to take a break from, if his brain wants to take a break from working all the time, that's fine, but he doesn't want to get to a point where he's taking a decade-long break.
I think it's and that's, I think, the power in kind of a little bit of what I'm doing is that, there's this dream out there that I want to be better, and I want to obtain certain goals and to be good enough to do certain achievements. But I also know what it's like to be the procrastinator who will fall back into the routine that he has done so many years, and it's a lot easier, to binge watch a series on Netflix than it is to
it's easier to swipe up and down on videos than
right. And but and that comes back to what we do each week. We ask the hard questions.
Exactly.
But I think the point that I really want to say right now is that, to a certain degree, maybe we're holding each other to this, you have to be successful the next week always kind of mentality. Maybe we don't build in those those points of contraction or the ability to just have a crappy week to each other. Maybe we don't allow for it. And like in my current state, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be this, master, force my way into it, and maybe to some degree, it's not very easy to fail when I have to get back on and talk to you, because to me, you're looking for a way to say, see, you failed. And maybe to some degree I'm doing that to you too. I'm like, well, maybe even his injury is a way for him to just have a few weeks off and just not have to really, because he needs a break, because we need a break. Who knows? I think to some degree, maybe we are holding, maybe we're not giving each other enough humanness. I don't know. What do you think about that, Joe?
No, and I think there's something there. I think it's in our name. Like, you can't have productivity without procrastination. You can't have one without the other, right? So, and I think it comes down to mindset on why we're doing this podcast. We're not doing this podcast because we're like, okay, I've come up with the perfect plan and it is infallible and I will forever be productive. No, we're idiots. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're coming in here, throwing hypotheses against the wall and see what sticks. Like, I think there's a certain level of like, hey James, did you get some stuff done? That type of stuff. But I'm not coming at you like, oh, see James, it's not working. No, it's like, James, if you're having a tough week, that's okay. What can we do? What do you think contributed to that? And like, what can we learn from that in order to build you up and try something else or fix what's currently not working? It's not a oh well, your one plan, your one idea is not working, we gotta throw it away. It's how do we adjust it? How do we tweak it? What can we add to it? Which should we take away? It's an exploration. We're exploring what it takes for individually, because I don't think it's going to be the same for both of us. What's going to take individually to grow and to be productive.
And I think that makes me think about before, when I was talking about that like path that I was on, where it's like a lot of my things have maybe, kind of smoothed out in my life a little bit, and I'm now just ready to push myself a little bit. Able is probably a better word. Able to push myself a little bit harder because maybe I don't have as much on my plate anymore. And that is part of the journey. I mean, we started this and we're like, hey, let's become productive. And then, there's been a journey along the way. And all the things that we talked about, everything that people do talk about, such as barrier of entry, all these things in and of themselves, they are pieces of the grand puzzle that is stopping people from just blowing up, with what they do. And so I think it's what you're saying is it's like a different path for each person, and in a month, maybe what I'm doing right now won't mean as much because something else I'll be in that spot where something else takes hold and is more important.
Yeah.
Like,
again, we both have our own hypotheses, like I said, and we're trying them out. We're seeing if they work. There's no like, I'm wrong, you're right. We're a team. We're learning together. We're trying together. We're discussing together. We're theory crafting and seeing if any of this is working. it's there's it's when I'm like, hey James, like what happened this week, what can we do differently, that type of stuff. It's not coming at it from a place of like, well James, you done fucked up. How are you going to atone? No, it's how do we change what you did last week to grow this week. But it sounds like you're in a good place, you don't need to grow. Yeah, you're doing your own growing. You've figured out what's working for you. And I think you should keep going on that path. And I want you to come at it with a different perspective. More of a we're trying to figure it out together. Like we both have our own ideas, yes. And because we're, the people that we are, we're both going at it two different ways. Well, two ways. I don't know they're that different, but different I think hypothesis, like overall hypothesis. But I don't view it as my idea versus your idea. I view it as we're trying to figure it out together. And we're trying to figure out what works and what we like. And right now what I'm doing is working for me. I'm liking it. It's making me happy. And I want to draw. Like I want to draw. I want to paint. I haven't felt that in a while. So it's nice to feel that.
What's surprising to me is that I didn't really, or maybe you didn't talk about it much when you were going through it, but I never really saw this point at which you were struggling. Do you think that you were just smoothing it over when you talked about it?
No, I think for so long it was like I want to be an artist, right? I want to be, making money from my art. I want to sell my art and subsist through that. Whereas my mindset has changed to I want to create art. I want to make art. I want to explore art. It's not I want to be this artist that's making money. I want to actually just create. It's for me it feels like a big shift, and it's one that I'm excited about.
Well, I mean, I can't fault you for the potential results. I mean, it's obvious to me that it's like, okay, well, as long as Joe creates and loves what he's doing, he's going to get good over time.
Exactly.
The continuation is the main thing.
Yeah.
And then at some point, he's going to be so damn good that, people will want his crap. So figuring out how to sell it is not a big deal.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I guess the real difference between me and you is that to some degree, I think, and I'm being really overconfident there, but I think that I could probably sell something I make right now, and I don't really need to get better to do some of the things that I want to do right now. The smaller things. I'm sure my novels suck.
I think I have the skill to make things. Like, I have the skill, and I have, the technical knowledge on how to create. I've created some decent art, specifically even for the pancake pieces. And I don't think my skills are far off where I need to be to make the art that I think will sell. I think it's getting myself to create the art is the crux.
Yes, and that's where I'm like, okay, well, I think I can do this. Well, now what's the only thing in between? doing it, right? So if I put all of what I am into getting the production part out of the way, then yes, to bring back what you said, like maybe even a week ago, yeah, I could spend a year and maybe make a small story, short story, and pull it out. I could probably do that. Um, but um, you see, what I think I'm gonna miss if I don't do it this way is I'm gonna miss what I don't learn by super accelerating some of that learning curve. Like, I feel like if I could do that in, you know, 6 months instead of a year, maybe I'm going to learn something else with that productivity that I wouldn't get if I took it the longer step. And so, for right now, I'm gonna try to just go at it as hard as I can.
Yeah. So I do want to
That's it.
preface this with, I don't think anybody really does things they don't want to do to a long extent. And so to me, it sounds like you like this version of yourself that you're working towards, this more productive and more honed in, focused James. And I don't think that's a bad thing. That's not, I don't have any issues with that. My challenge or my word of caution comes down the line when you're like, okay, I could push out a second book, but I really don't feel like I really want to right now, but I really want that money. That's when I would caution you to take a step back and refine what's important for you about writing and making sure that that's still like you're still like take a step back, because I think there's going to be there might not be, but there may come a day where it's like I need to take a step back or I'm pushing myself too hard and it'll ruin itself. It'll ruin itself for you.
Well, that could be a possibility. I do have my new weekly kind of like sheet that I print out, um, where I kind of just try to keep the understanding of where what I'm trying to go for, and keep me in check, kind of for both points, because I don't want to become this you know just mule is works. There's a lot of life to live. There's a lot of you know um but but I guess right now in my life, what would really affect me is if in the next 365 days, if I could finish something related to the writing. I think that would make more of a life change for me in a positive way than just enjoying life to its fullest, like I have already done for X amount of a long time of my
Yeah.
life. I don't feel like, another year of living life to its fullest is going to make as much of a difference to me this year as finishing a piece. I
I
want
would
that change.
argue that if you're procrastinating on something, if you're not working towards something and you don't get that sense of fulfillment from that, then you aren't living life to its fullest. Because there's always this underlying guilt of, I should be doing this, I should be working on this, I should be. And it can spoil. It can spoil a lot of moments.
I think I mean, can you give me like a sentence? Sorry, it's
You're
late.
fine.
My brain just kind of.
No,
Whoa.
you're good.
Um,
So
Were you giving me a warning just then? I must have missed part of it. Sorry. Could you say
no,
it again?
you're good. So I believe that when you're productive, when you get that good feeling that like, oh, I feel like I actually progressed today. I feel like I did a good job today. I think enjoying life at the end of those days, that's living your life to its fullest.
Mm.
Whereas if you procrastinate and don't do anything that day and then you go and relax with your family or whatever, it feels hollow in comparison. Like you aren't living your life to your fullest. I feel like,
Yeah.
and it might be a culture thing, but there's a certain level of satisfaction and completeness that I feel after a day of not work. Like I don't get that from working. I get that from creating and working on my own stuff.
I agree. Good job. Um. Yes, that is the difference. Is when you feel like you haven't done anything in your craft, and it's the end of the day, and then you just choose to just play a game or whatever.
There's
That's when
like
you
a
feel
certain
bad.
twinge of guilt.
Yeah, and because you're like I could have and you feel bad. Um, I'm gonna have to learn that. I think the day that I had a day off and I was writing in my novel, and at the same day I was chilling with my daughter, watching things here and there, whatever. I think that was a good mix because I got good work done, and I felt like I was spending time with her, and
I love
we
those
were having
days.
fun. So I think that if you know a lot of the times when we work, we don't have a lot of time the rest of the day. Like you don't feel like you can do much with people and get anything productive done. That's where the dream comes in. It's like, well, if I could do it to such a degree that I could earn money from this and support myself, then all those days off now become my normal days. And now I can maybe actually spend time with people, enjoy my day, enjoy my life, and get a production amount done that allows me to have that feeling at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the grand push. It's just right now, while I do work, I have to sacrifice a little bit of time here and there to make that jump to get to that point that I am able to support myself a little bit with it.
Yeah. Well, it is late. It's time for
Yeah.
bed.
I think so. But
Thank you
I
guys
think
for
we're on the
listening.
same page a little bit now. To a large extent, I don't feel like we're.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate, like, we may disagree in how to get there, but we're both working towards the same goal. And it's not I'm right, you're wrong, or you're wrong, I'm right. Whatever. I think I did that wrong twice. You're right.
Okay.
I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
I'm
You're
so
right.
tired I didn't
Whatever.
notice it.
I think it is a collaborative thing that we're working on. Like we're both testing different hypotheses and seeing like what's working and what's gonna work for us. And maybe we can learn from each other about like if in like a month or two you're like pumping out novels like it's your birthday, then yeah, I need to ask you a bunch of questions. We need to break it down because you're not going to only the only person that's going to succeed in this manner, and we need to share that information with people who are listening. And it's the same for me. It's like it's important that we keep an open mind, we listen to each other's ideas, and we talk about them. And we can have disagreements. I don't think we would be James and Joe if we didn't have disagreements on how we did things. But I do think it's important that we come at it with the right mindset.
Yeah, so hopefully you listen to this and you can glean some of you know, some of what we're saying and maybe see some of yourself in each of us. Hopefully hopefully at the very least we've encouraged you to try to make your craft a real part of your life so you can see some changes and work towards that goal, whatever that goal is. You know, whether you're whether you're like me, you're the point where you want to make that a little bit harder, or whether you're at the point where you just need a reason to keep going, you know, the next day, and you want to work on honing some skill, you know. We're very interested in hearing what you have to say. Please comment and do all that stuff that people do. Help
Yeah.
us out, help us grow.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think James could have said it better. Like, and if you have questions, comments, yeah, definitely leave them. Because we listen to them all, and we'll either reply in chat or in the comments, or we'll talk about it here if it's more of a grand issue. But you guys have yourselves a good night. We're gonna go to sleep and work in the morning. Well, he probably has work in the afternoon.
See you next week.
See you next week.